Ms. Sewell is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I have the great honor of representing my hometown of Selma, Alabama, where John Lewis and so many amazing foot soldiers shed blood on a bridge in that hometown for the equal right of every American to vote. I think that I agree wholeheartedly that the issue of voting and election reform should be bipartisan. It shouldn't be partisan. And I am honored every day to carry the seminal piece of legislation, the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which would actually restore the full enforcement of and protections of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. You know, what I think is most distressing is that we focus on the turnout numbers. And Ms. Bullard, I know that all eyes were on Georgia during the 2022 both midterm as well as the presidential election. And there were great turnouts. But as my colleague pointed out, many of those turnouts were disproportionately by white voters, not black voters. And can you talk to us a little bit about the impact of that? See, I truly believe that that it wasn't because of SB 202, but rather it was in spite of 202, African American voters came out and voted in record numbers. Can you share a little bit about what you think the impact of 202 was with respect to voter turnout and voter access?
Well, it's a big question. I think those numbers speak for themselves. You know, we've had very exciting elections in the last few years here in Georgia, and lots and lots of attention, lots of money has come into the state to mobilize voters. All of those things are not things I've participated in recent years. I think that some of the things that we've seen in terms of lack of access to the drop boxes created lines and congestion around our polling places.
Wasn't it true that in the areas, the counties that African Americans mostly live, Fulton, DeKalb, and Gwinnett, had a reduction of drop boxes from 37, 33, and 24 respectively to 8, 5, and 6? Doesn't that mean that African American voters have to either wait in longer lines or have a more difficult time getting to the polls?
Well, I think those numbers are correct, and I think it makes it difficult for everybody to have the opportunity to vote. I think that the changes in when people can apply for absentee ballots disproportionately impacted people who have challenges already in terms of getting those things out, you know, not connected to the internet, maybe having some difficulty in just understanding how to process these many, many different changes that go on. And, you know, you chip away at those things little by little by little, and then it tends to add up.
I also think that the 202, SB 202, also has a election reform provision that allows the state to take over county boards of elections if they see fit. Dr. Roof, do you think that that is a reform that should be nationalized? I think that my colleagues with their American Confidence in Elections Act is trying to really nationalize a lot of these voter suppressions. Can you give us any insight as to whether or not it's necessary for states to take over county boards of elections?
I think it's important that elections are run at the local level with guidance from the state and oversight from the state, but not takeover. We experienced that with Georgia and Fulton County, and what I appreciate from the board is we work together in a bipartisan way to ensure that in the oversight of elections, working with our department to ensure that we were in compliance. And so the performance review was very helpful for us, I would say, in ensuring that we are addressing the errors, the inconsistencies, and making sure that we're updating our systems and
Thank you. I just want to reclaim my time. I want to enter for the record a unanimous consent to enter the Brennan Center for Justice's December 2022 report, Georgia's Racial Turnout Gap Grew in 2022. Can I please?
Without objection.
In conclusion, I just want to say, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, I do believe that we should be trying to work together, Democrats and Republicans, to do election reform. I think all of us can see that there are holes and gaps in the process, but I think that in doing so, what's really also important is that we increase voter access to the ballot box, that we're not intentionally or unintentionally, inadvertently, making it harder for certain populations to vote. I think that that's why we see so much polarization when it comes to that. But I want to just end by saying that I think that we would all do a lot if we could sit down at a table together and really honestly talk about election reforms. I hope that Chairwoman Lee and I can do that sometime very soon. Thanks.
The gentleman yields back.